about games here. So there have been many discussions about the educational value of games and about their amazing dynamics and potentials. But today I'm not going to talk about that, almost at all. Today I'm here to share with you how, by actually playing, observing, and later on design games, I changed my life, not once, but 3 times. And how, by being playful, we can actually experience change and urban space in probably a completely different way. So I actually want to ask you, do you play games? Do you play, please use your hands, do you play games on your laptops, on your consoles, in your smartphones? Yeah. Brilliant, you do. Do you play board games with your friends? Great. But how many of you still play street games out there? Few. I see. So I learned something about you, and now it's time to learn something about me. Let's get personal here. We're a family of 2 siblings, and my younger brother, unfortunately for me, he's got all the talent in the family. So he is an athlete, he's been to the Olympics. He is a writer, he writes very funny short fiction stories. He's a musician, he composes his own music, and at the same time, he also has intellectual disability. So, and since I can remember myself, and since I was the older sister, and I had to teach him about life, the universe, and everything, I ended up playing a lot with him, because the main way to teach him and communicate with him is by being playful and exploring games and hacking games so that he can understand better. So we would be like for hours and hours playing a mental ping pong word game so that he can learn new words. Or I remember that we would be for hours again on the safety of his own bed playing role-playing games. Role-playing games, for example, that had to do with how to teach him about things and how to understand him. So I would wear very different funny hats and change my voice so I can be different roles, different people, and allow him to feel safe so that we can explore feelings or difficult situations. So I played a lot. And to be honest, I'm not sure how that affected my brother exactly, hopefully in a positive way, but I can tell you how it affected me. I learned to love changing the rules. For hours and hours, I would be with my friends trying to convince them that the board game or the street game or even the sport that we're playing was not happy enough, fun enough, immersive enough, and we should definitely change it. I was really annoying back then, but that's a different story. The thing is that I grew up, and as I was growing up, I was told, okay, now you have to stop playing so much, and you have to focus, you have to study hard and work hard if you want to succeed. And of course I did. Of course I obeyed, but thankfully nobody told me you have to stop being playful, because by being playful, it was my way to actually enter situations, enter relationships, understand myself, my limits, and endure hardships. And the most important lesson I got back then, it was how to understand systems. Don't get me wrong, games are systems. They have rules, they have structure, they have mechanics, and sometimes they even have roles. The same thing applies for systems, educational, financial, social, or even relationships. And as I grew up, I started focusing on how this parallel can actually teach me more things. Let's take a very simple game, peekaboo. I'm sure that you've all played it. If not, you just don't remember it. Do you actually know that peekaboo is a game in which the infant learns how to endure separation from the mother? So some people say that it's not really a game, it's just a playful interaction, but even still, you can play it with so many different ways. You can do peekaboo, you can do peekaboo, or you can take an object and hide it and then reveal it again. So if we mutually agree, we can understand how the game is being played, change it, and have fun. That's the main difference between a game system and a non-game system. That nobody actually tells us in real life that you can enter a system, let's say the educational system, observe it, realize that, well, I'm not really happy about it, can we make something? And then go on and change it. They never teach us stuff like that. So it got me wondering, what if we would enter new situations, the first day in a new job, the first day in a university, or actually the first day in a new relationship, with a will to observe, understand, and if necessary, hack. So, change number 2. My brother again, he was visiting me with my mother when I was studying in Glasgow. And while we were outside wandering in the streets, he had the street map in his hand, and I realized that he was able to read it. He was like, okay, big deal. It is a huge deal. Because back then, my brother was really struggling with his spatial skills, and I have to remind you, he could not read or write English. So I asked him, why, how can you read the map? And he just looked at me like that, saying, well, I do play computer games. I have to know how to read a map, you know. And then I realized that I do have to focus on how people play games and what do they do when they play computer games, especially. So I did start observing people that would play online games, such as World of Warcraft or Lineage for hours and hours, tough life, what can I say? But I realized that apart from all the amazing learning things that they would happen, I promised not to speak a lot about that, what happened is that they were being playful. Even though they knew that they had to win, they would stop what they were doing and start interacting in a much more playful way, reenact stories, crack jokes, assist other players. It's amazing to see how a highly competitive gamer can transform into a supportive mentor towards a newbie just to win or to have fun. And at the same time, these gamers, they were so open to learn new things and change the way that they would play the game, their roles and their perspectives. And that got me thinking, what if I would do the same thing in life? I realized that we can change our perspectives, the way that we see things, be more open, and actually pay attention to other people. Because I realized that if by being rigid and stiff and not taking consideration to other people, it's not a good way to enter gameplay, then maybe, just maybe, it's not the best way to enter life. So I've already told you about game systems and about people. The third time that I got changed, it was by an entire city. Athens. Athens is my hometown and my playground. It's an amazing place where chaos, beauty, and order coexist. It never ceases to amaze and impress me. And please don't get puzzled when I say that cities are playgrounds. All cities are playgrounds. Because next time that you're in the bus stop, just waiting for the bus patiently, look around. You see so many role-playing, playful interaction, violent financial sieges, arcade games while people try to cross the street in safety. The thing is that they have many, many secrets to share if you just observe. So, I do love Athens, as I said. I love Athens as a best friend. I love so much to getting lost again and again in familiar streets and see the light as it flickers and plays with shadows and graffitis and objects that they shouldn't be there in the first place. However, since 2008, there's been a lot of turmoil in Greece, and especially Athens, since it's the biggest city. Financial crisis is just an aspect, while, to be honest with you, lots of anger and despair are some of the feelings that we have experienced out in the streets. Poverty, excessive use of violence and chemicals during demonstrations. Actually, more than that, rise of fascism and intolerance took its toll to the city and to all of us. Common space, streets, square, acquired completely different connotation and meanings, and people actually felt more and more alone. Media told us, in order to go back as we were, you have to stay and remain indoors. Don't go outside. So when Chloe Varelidi and Artemis Papageorgiou asked me to join them in their effort to organize a street game festival for the first time, I was thrilled. I said, yes, I want to do it, because maybe, just maybe, I can change the way that some Athenians would feel for a while. And boy, I was in for a treat, because I was the one that I got changed again for a third time, and that time, not only me. Athens Plaython began as a street game festival in 2011, and we actually asked many, many people to come to us and design street games, urban games, big games, using technology or not. And that's what happened. The most amazing thing is that we had a huge group of volunteers, people that they were eager to be there for us and assist us. And every time that we play something, it's amazing how people just stop what they're doing, they ask, what are you doing here? Can we assist? And this is what So yeah, we can be really disruptive. So we design games, and we have hosted games that they had to do with children or for adults, super inclusive games for people with or without disabilities, with or without technology. The most important thing for us is not only to create games that they have different layers and they can persuade you to change, but mainly games that they make you to go out there, cooperate, and actually understand the social value of public space. When we play a game, we temporarily reclaim this public space. So maybe next day, we might hack the experience that we have for this space and feel that we own it. It's our own. We are free there. One of these games, for example, with a much more political connotation is Pigs. Pigs, for those of you who don't know, apart from the lovely animals, comes from Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain. It's a nickname. It's very popular, but completely negative, and it has to do with the financial crisis of these countries and what they have actually caused to the entire Europe. So since they called us pig, we chose to act as pigs, because I don't know if you know, they're really playful, and we created a street game using your smartphones. That was ironic, using smartphones when you're supposed to be in crisis, and run around, chase other pigs, in order to throw them away from the garden. The thing is that we created a parallel. The game meant that you might be guilty, but it didn't really matter at all. What matters is that you should be the one to remain in the garden of Europe. So other games might not need any technology at all, just ropes and heroic narrative, just like this one, that you just have to cooperate with other people, and it's a pop-up and super inclusive, everybody can play it. Sharing knowledge is extremely important to us as well. We organize game design and DIY workshops all the time, and to be honest, we're a little bit addicted in sharing knowledge and doing mentoring. So what happened is that in the process, we transformed. And from a game festival, we actually began to be a community of architects, designers, educators, and just Athenians that they want to be there and change, create immersive experiences for everybody, and to be honest, to experience crisis and any kind of crisis in a different way. And we're not alone. There are so many amazing communities out there able to hack experiences and actually change the way we see city and how we can transform by the city, creating new mythologies in urban space. And actually, it's 2014, after 2 festivals, many games events and street games and workshops, I asked myself, what's the most important lesson I got so far? And I have to tell you that, first of all, adding drops of chaotic playfulness in rigid systems not only allows us to test their structure, but it's a pretty good way to choose if we want to be part of the systems, if we want to hack them, or if we want to ignore and create our own. And all this entire journey that started on the top of my brother's bed and me changing hats and making voices actually made me realize that games and playfulness is not only for children or for people with intellectual disabilities. It's actually a pretty good way for adults and communities and cities to communicate, cooperate, reclaim public space, fight back numbness, and actually start making choices together. Thank you very, very much.